Welcome to the Slyder Farm.
You're in.
We're here to commemorate the lives that were lost on this hallowed ground here in Gettysburg. We're staying at the Slyder Farm right behind me here. Last time, if you remember, we were at the Bushman Farm just over my shoulder here. On the second day, the Confederate advance on the left flank of the Union Army commenced here with Hood's division coming out of the woods, the far woods behind me here. Moorfield Ridge, through the Bushman Farm where General Hood was wounded gravely. Command fell upon Evander Law, who now led the Texans here to the Slyder Farm, which at the time was being defended by about 170 sharpshooters, the 2nd sharpshooters. They were able to hold them off briefly, but it was an enormous help. We get a perspective of that if you want to take a picture of it, or maybe you already got one of the farm and the Warfield Ridge. That's had you been here on that day, you would see about 3,500, between 3,000 and 4,000 Confederates infantry advancing across that field towards us at about 4 p.m. Here at the Slyder Farm, you have 200, just under 200 sharpshooters. The interesting thing is the sharpshooters had repeating rifles, so they were able to get 3 shots off for every Confederate shot. So they were able to hold out for a good 40 minutes or so before slowly retiring north towards the Union line. When the Confederates drove them from this property, their next objective was the left flank of the entire Union Army, which at that time would have been up where Smith's Battery is, just above Little Round Top, or just above Devil's Den. To the right, their other target was Devil's Den, of course, and Little Round Top, which at the time was unoccupied. But we'll explain that a little bit later. But the important thing to understand here is that what the rebel army is trying to do is roll up the left flank of the Union Army by flanking them through Little Round Top and Devil's Den. There is one thing in their way, and that's Smith's Battery, which we'll take a look at shortly too, and we'll get a view from there of the Slyder Farm, get the Union point of view. But they're hammering this infantry that's advancing across this field towards them. And that forces the Confederates, the Texans, to lead some troops in that direction. I believe 2 brigades, or 2 regiments. So some go straight through to take the initial attack, which was on Devil's Den, and some are forced to move left and try to silence that battery. So that's the situation just prior to Little Round Top being attacked. Remember, if you know the history of it, Oates' Alabamans are swinging around to the right of the Texans and going up and over Big Round Top, which is off to our right here, and attacking Little Round Top. And that's where Chamberlain held them off. But we're going to focus on the initial central attack here, which is on Smith's Battery and Devil's Den, which the 4th and 5th Texas regiments are attempting to take. So that's about all from this perspective. Casualties were fairly light in this area, but once they got to the triangular field just below Smith's Battery, that's where the heavy fighting started, and of course in Devil's Den, and eventually Little Round Top. In a future episode, we'll cover, if you can take a look over here, called Hoax Ridge. On the other side of that is the Rose Farm, where we'll be staying in July, and the wheat field. And this 200-acre farm, which this is almost part of, most of that area up there, it was part of the Rose Farm at that time. And there were 9,000 casualties in a 200-acre farm. It's the bloodiest tract of one single farm in American history. So that's my perspective from the battle. I hope it helps you try to understand what happened here.
Thank you.
Very solemn day. It's kind of dim, dark and dreary. Fits the mood, but on that day it was 85 degrees. And to get a perspective of how open this is, I've come into Gettysburg many, many times, and in the winter you can really understand how close everything was together. I get a whole different feeling for what these rebel forces faced. If you just look up at Smith's Battery, having to take that and move up that hill and look to the right and see Little Round Top and having to take that, what an incredible effort was made. And it's definitely worth coming here to explore it. It's a very nice house, very interesting, very comfortable.
Yes.
But that's kind of the history of the Slyder Farm. The troops that fought here held the rebels off for a number of minutes and gave the Union a little time to organize on Little Round Top and Devil's Den. But they slowly retired, and some of them went, I think, to Little Round Top. Some of them went to Devil's Den and joined the forces there to fight. But they only lasted here about 40 minutes. They are outnumbered 90-1, so it's pretty.
Okay, viewers, I am taking you to the back side of the Slyder Farmhouse. Vince told us that the Warfield Ridge is over this way, and we can see the Bushman Farmhouse right over there. Now, take a look at the back side of this place, of the property. We can see the Slyder Farmhouse right here. This is a very nice location. And you can see we have a little outhouse thing here, and then we have this barn over here that we can see. And then also we have a little blacksmith shop all the way over there. We also have like a livestock coop over there, little sheltered one with a well, and then going down there's a little path with a bridge that goes over. But this gives you the perspective of if you were here looking out, and look how far Smith was. He was all the way up there on that open area with no trees, shooting over these guys and shooting into these areas, hitting the Confederate waves that were approaching while Berdan sharpshooters were trying to delay them to allow time for reinforcements to follow. Is hopefully the right history. Don't quote me on that, anyone, but yes, this is just to give you an angle. Where were the shooters? The sharpshooters would have been right around this area, lined along here, from my understanding, aiming towards these guys. They're coming this way, coming right at us, and we'll also give the perspective of also where the Bushman Farmhouse is, because that's where they were coming from, and you think it's very far, but no, it's actually quite close. Right there, you can see it through the trees, and that was our previous location, so they were actually very close, and thank you for that. Alright, yes, there we go. We can check this monument out real quick, viewers. We got them talking. This is a very nice location, and oh, hopefully that wasn't zoomed in to see my soul right there. I think it was. Sorry about that, viewers. But yeah, we can see one of the dedicated monuments.
Which we didn't talk about.
Beautiful marker.
The one that
Again, you can see Smith's division all the way up there. And you can see, kind of get an idea of how close. They just had to walk up this road and go over there, and there's the Bushman Farmhouse. Now look at this monument. Companies E and H, 2nd United States Sharpshooters, 2nd Brigade, 1st Division, 3rd Corps. Wow. Vermont. Beautiful monument.
Why
Right.
is there a beehive there?
No, that's a good question, Gary. Do you know the answer?
I do, but you're going to tell us.
Oh no. Well,
Describe the sharpshooters.
so the sharpshooters actually wore all dark green uniform so they could blend in, and they had repeating rifles that could shoot 3 shots in a row before they were forced to reload. So these guys were like the special forces of the Union Army, to call them. And their buttons for their jackets were actually made of the Goodyear tire, so that there wouldn't be a reflection or a glint from the buttons shining on a hot summer sunny day, which would have happened and revealed their position. So yeah, these guys were troopers for holding off thousands of men coming at them, and there were only a couple hundred, or the number that Vince said. So yeah, so it's crazy to put in perspective just from the sharpshooter area. And then again, we'll look at the Confederate side, and then we'll look at Smith's division and see, what the bombardment would have looked like, raining down on Hood's division, which was at the Bushman, where he did get struck by a cannon, lost his arm, and he was out of commission for a bit. And yeah, see you in the next perspective. We're running, yep, and I'll just join in with you.
And talk to me.
Okay, so we've moved up to the Union side to give you a perspective of what the Slyder Farm would look like on July 2nd, 1863, from the extreme left flank of the Union Army. This is Smith's battery of cannons. They were accompanied by a regiment or 2 of infantry as well, which was normal procedure in the Civil War to support the artillery with some kind of infantry. But from here to the left, there's no more Union troops at this point. If we look behind me, you can see where we're staying at the Slyder Farm, where we were previously recording, about a quarter mile down in the valley there. Had you been here on that day, you would see about a line of about 3,000 Confederate troops marching towards this battery. Of course, they split a little bit, so some of them would go to the right and head towards Little Round Top. The others would be coming straight for us. And just down below this grade here is, if you remember me pointing out, the triangular field where the Texans attempted to seize this hill and this battery, and eventually succeeded. A very bloody battle fought here in front of us at the triangular field. The ultimate goal, of course, is behind us here, or in front, to our rear here, which is Little Round Top. And below Little Round Top, of course, Devil's Den. That's a whole different program, though.
Wow, look at that.
But that's, at this point in the battle, undefended. There are troops being hurried there from the 5th Corps, but at this point, this is the strike point for the Confederate Army. And they did succeed, after heavy fighting, in seizing the battery and actually turning the guns on the enemy. And they did succeed in taking Devil's Den. And of course, you know from history that they failed to, in the end, take Little Round Top, thanks to Joshua Chamberlain and the 20th Maine. To our left here, if you could see it, there's trees, but is the wheat field and the peach orchard, which is later in the battle, and we'll cover when we stay at the Rose Farm in July. But one final perspective, if we look across the horizon here, to the right is Seminary Ridge, to the left is Warfield Ridge. That's where the Confederate 3rd Corps is lined up, Longstreet's troops. And again, had you been here, there would have been about 15,000 Confederates marching this way. They attacked in echelon, which means every 10 minutes another one would embark. which was intended to draw the Union Army off. But the closest troops would have been at the Slyder Farm, and the Georgians would have been just starting their attack on the to the left of them, and then further on more troops that wound up in the wheat field and the peach orchard. So that's a interesting perspective here. Again, I've been coming here a long time, and in the winter you can really see how close everything was. And in the summer, it's a whole different look. You can't understand how tight this battle, and to imagine that there were, just in this little area, close to 40,000 troops in battle. In this little, what we can see. Crazy. There you have it.
Thank
Smith's
you.
Battery, and a look at the Union perspective of the Slyder Farm.
How old is that tree?
That's a witness tree that was here during the battle. And of course all the rocks are witness rocks. Devil's Den off to our left here. And of course the triangular field in front. But
Gives you the full perspective, and it's interesting to see, like he said, how close things really were. And you think it's so far away when you hear all these things. At least for me, I thought this was like so big, but with all the men who were coming through, that was really like fit and compact when you think about it, because it was just rushed, and things were happening, and these guys were just firing, like you said.
I think the park did a great job of cleaning it out, making it look like it did on the day of the battle. And in the wintertime you can see a lot better because there's no trees with leaves. So you get a really good perspective of the entire left side of the battlefield here
Definitely. Thank you for that.
from Smith's Battery.
Thank you.